Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jill Bloom, publisher of Roofing Contractor, Walls and Ceilings, and Building Enclosure. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you are listening or watching. I have to say, I'm really excited for this conversation today because we're talking about women in construction. And I'm joined by Hannah Bololi, the associate editor of Walls and Ceilings. And we are so honored to be speaking today with Lady March Goldwire, who is the managing partner at the Contractor and Subhub, and also the CEO and owner of Bryn Mawr Construction and Development Group. So, Lady, there's so much to talk about, but thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, let's dive in, but first, I would love it if you could just tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get into construction and become the managing partner and the CEO? There's a lot of good stuff there.
Sure. So I come from a background full of tradesmen, tile layers, tile setters, block masons, brick layers. Initially growing up, I think I had a typical dad who didn't mind me tagging along, but more or less figured my space would be, he actually told me that I would make a great secretary for for a contractor or construction company. And watching him serve in the capacity of foreman, I saw him going from job to job and kind of calling the shots. And I just, very early on thought it was something that I could do, that a girl could do. It took a little while to kind of put the pieces in order and get my head wrapped around what needed to be done to logistically to license and actually put myself out there. But it kind of came together around the end of 2005, 2006. I licensed, sat for the state exam here in Florida and passed. And it's been on and popping since then. I've been licensed as a general contractor since 2006. Went on to license after that as both a home inspector, a property adjuster, and then a licensed building official in the 50 states here in the country. And so it's just been really, really wild. There aren't a lot of women who do what I do. And it's just exciting to be able to have conversation about how to invite more women into the space.
Well, it is so exciting, but I have to ask you a question as a follow-up to that. So when your dad said you'd be a great secretary, what was your gut reaction when you heard him say that? Like, sorry, I got bigger.
I think I was somewhere between 11 years old. And so, I thought about it, but there was enough gumption inside of me to think beyond what he said. We had that conversation in my early 30s and we talked about it. And he did talk about how surprised he was that I actually went beyond that and went on to license. He actually retired to join me in the force as a contractor. He did not think, I think when he said it, he's acknowledged at the time that women could do this thing at that level. And I think he's 72 now. Things have changed a lot. I think he's more open to it. He's definitely living it up close and personal with his daughter doing it. But, when you hear that, I think so young, it's just kind of in alignment with the frame of mind that probably most men were in then, and a lot of men are still in now, with regard to whether or not women have a place in the industry. I think the times are changing and we're demonstrating that we absolutely do.
Mm-hmm. So, Lady, when did you realize that you wanted to advocate for women in the construction industry? I know it's probably early on because, as we discussed before the call, of the 10 million people in the industry, only 9% of construction workers are female. So I'm assuming that you noticed that pretty early on.
I noticed it so much early on that I found myself kind of stepping away from the whole feminine aspect of being in the trade. I did probably what I've seen a lot of women do. I cut my hair really short, changed kind of my wardrobe. I really wanted to assimilate and kind of fit in with the guys. And it wasn't until I got into the industry and started noticing that some of the things that really kind of represented my superpowers were rooted in me being feminine, that I started moving away from that and kind of embracing the fact that, okay, women are phenomenal in a space that they're intuitive, They streamline well. We're problem solvers. We're always looking for solutions. Taking those characteristics and leading with them, I thought, there's a lot of women who have and share the same qualities. And when you bring that to the table, construction, you're always coming up against problems. There's timelines that don't get met, material shortages, vendor relations, just things that a lot of brute, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
just isn't the answer for. And so early on, I realized that, okay, if I could just get more women involved, I'd have or could build up sort of an allyship. And this could be a really good thing. And so I've kind of been on that trajectory probably very early on in my career, very soon after licensing.
Yeah. So I know you touched on this just a little bit. You said women are intuitive, they're problem solvers. But what are some of the things that women specifically can bring to the industry? I know that you talked about some of your superpowers were rooted in the fact that you were feminine. So tell us a little bit about that. When did you realize, okay, you know what? Because I'm a female, I have this perspective and I'm going to use it and I'm going to go with it. And if they don't want to hear it, then too bad for them.
A lot of times I found that it was a lot less likely for me to get a no once I got into the room. I think a lot of men are open to collaborating with women and kind of hearing our thoughts. They aren't necessarily okay with us being out in front, but they will allow you room to kind of get in and alongside them. And so it puts you in a really good position to observe and then to take the information that you gather onto, your next venture or your next project. And as you build on the experience, you develop this portfolio of problem solving skills that you didn't necessarily have in the beginning. I noticed as men interacted with one another, they were very guarded, very territorial. There's this comfort level that they had with women in their presence in terms of just sharing and wanting to bounce their thoughts around. And so once I realized that they were open and susceptible to what I was thinking, I think at that point I figured out that, I have a place here. And it's now just figuring out how to elbow my way to the front of the line that I need to put some emphasis and focus on.
Yeah. So, what's some of the work that you do to bring? So, the work that you do, are you trying to bring women into the construction industry and pull those traits out of them? Or 'cause I know that combats the labor shortage as well, since that is a huge thing facing our industry. So, do you
So
do a
what
lot
I
of
will,
speaking?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, do you do a lot of speaking events, or how do you draw people in?
We have. I'll be if I think this platform is open to me being very, very frank. Currently, I'm engaged in some federal litigation that I think will be monumental for women and how we move in this industry. I am about to probably a month out of a trial that is centered around gender equality, equal work for equal pay, and those things are important. My advocacy is rooted in those actions a lot, just getting people to understand that once we get into a space as women in this industry, that it's important for us to be compensated equally, respected when we're there, and treated fairly, equally, but also have some equitable stake in some of the outcomes, the projects that we work on, the ability to represent those projects and speak on those projects, take credit for those projects where we put a lot of our energy, time, thought, sweat, blood, tears into them. And so advocacy for me looks a lot different when I am speaking about how we can make space for more women. I'm always encouraging women to try to get themselves in a space where they can not only be mentors, but that they can evolve into sponsors, being able to create a beautiful space, a space where people trust you enough for you to usher someone else into an opportunity and serve as a sponsor. A lot of people don't know the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. And so I've always tried to do a good job of, explaining what those differences are and then creating opportunities around the latter, sponsorship, so that women, are comfortable in doing the same when they make some of their own headway.
Yeah. Can you explain for our listeners the difference that you see between mentorship and sponsorship?
Mentorship is typically, I'll give you some examples. You see a woman, she gets into a space, and from the vein of mentorship, she then takes on an understudy and teaches them the ropes.
Hmm.
She teaches them ropes in such a way that, if she were to pass, there's some succession. She can ultimately have somebody to fill that space in their absence. But sponsorship is being intentional, in my opinion, about developing relationships so that women can create their own spaces,
Hmm.
and kind of thrive in that within the four corners of that box.
Right.
I'm a
Hmm.
CEO here. How do I bring this person on board and create the opportunity for them to be a CEO of their own initiative and of their own right?
Hmm.
And sharing relationships often come with sponsorship. A lot of times we're so very guarded about the work and the relationships that we do
Yeah.
that you think you're being as open as you can and as benevolent as you can in terms of keeping people abreast of the opportunities out there. But when you sit back and you do some self inventory and you reflect, we keep a lot of those things close and tight to the vest. I think
Hmm.
sponsorship is being very, very clear about who's worthy of sponsorship, identifying the opportunities, and then creating these great spaces and grooming people to kind of take flight on their own.
Hmm. Yeah. So through your advocacy for women in the construction industry, have you been able to poach any women from a career that they were in and turn them into a contractor?
I have.
Oh, cool.
I have. I'm very, very excited about it. This month, I mean, not this year, during the whole cycle of the pandemic, I had two women who were anxious to become general contractors. They
Cool.
needed some apprenticeship, they needed some guidance, they needed to navigate the entire process. We were able to kind of hold their hand and guide them through. There's probably about, I'd like to say, there's a very small percentage of general contractors here in the state of Florida that are women, and that percentage dwindles down even more when you talk about women of color. And so,
Mhm.
to have four of them under my belt, too, that licensed in the the pandemic has been pretty awesome. That's kind of how I like to do things. People will approach me and say, I wish I could, and my perspective is you absolutely can. Let's get to it, and
Yeah.
that's happened. So yeah, I'm happy about that.
That's awesome. You're two birds with one stone, bringing women
Right?
in, combating the labor shortage, and
Yeah.
that's through your advocacy. So that's amazing.
Thank you. The
Um,
labor shortage is real.
yeah. Are you experiencing any of that right now with your company?
Yeah, you know what it is? It's good labor. I mean, you
Okay.
probably can
Yeah.
get your hands on labor anywhere, but good labor.
Hmm.
Buyers and consumers are becoming more savvy about what they want and how they want it. And so good labor is what we're falling short on. And right now in the industry, because there's so much construction happening, um, people have the option to pick and choose where they're going to work for. And so it's
Hmm.
important to be a good employer right now because people have options. And
Hmm.
if you're not cream of the crop in terms of respectability and fairness and offering fair wage, you are going to lose out on the opportunity to be able to have good labor at your disposal. So yeah, good
Hmm.
labor is hard to find. I have experienced it, but most of the guys who are with me have been with me for quite some time,
Hmm.
and we've got some pretty solid relationships. So I'm fortunate in that space. Materials is a different story.
Yeah. Oh, I know. There's so much going on with our industry right now, and COVID just accelerated every issue we had, and it's like, bang, now it's front and center for us.
Yeah, there's some great opportunities though with it as well, Jill. One of the other things that I'm really, really excited about that's even more narrow in terms of the field of construction and women in it is the opportunity to build with cannabis-based materials. And so
Oh, wow.
industrial hemp right now is a really, really big thing. And while people were capitalizing on the CBD element of
Mhm.
cannabis, all of the leftover hemp and stalk that you have to work with is being used. It's a green sustainable material with the wood and plastics going up and being so expensive. People are looking into alternatives, and hemp is already used very widely in the UK and in Asia. It is fire resistant, water resistant, mold resistant, pest resistant. It just makes sense. You talk about the 9% of women in construction in comparison to 10 million, and you've got less than 0.4% of women in the industrial hemp industry. So I'm excited, and COVID has kind of brought that to the forefront, and getting to champion that has been amazing.
I want to believe that there's no active ingredient in those type of building products.
No.
Careful if there's any fires.
No THC whatsoever. You've got that side, and then this is a totally different side. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because it's been so critical in legislation veins, because a lot of people just don't understand the difference between the two. CBD, which is cannabis, usually has a concentration of 0.03% or less. And we're talking about the stalk that these plants grow out of. And so once it's chopped up and everything, it's like a curd or herd. It's really, really chalky. And when it's grinded together, meshed together, it makes for a very, very sustainable project. When you think about termite damage and mold issues, this product is anti all of that. And so it really is the solution to a lot of problems. It's come to the forefront because of COVID, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
Are you seeing more and more companies take advantage of that, or do you think that a lot of people are behind the curve because they don't really know the difference between the two?
More and more companies are taking advantage. Cannabis was already on an upswing, and now that they've come up with a new narrative for it, most people talk about it's the world's solution, and the solution to a lot of the world's problems. When you talk about just the sustainable issues, that non-sustainable factors that we come up against with building, plastics and concretes are so terrible in terms of how they end up breaking themselves down over years. This is just a better alternative. People are learning, and people are wanting to learn. They're actively seeking out alternatives to some of these products that have been shoved down our throats over the years, and I think they're happy with their findings. And so, we've had several crowd funding opportunities, and people who've raised quite a bit of money in a very, very short period of time to market and demonstrate all of the positive attributes of industrial hemp. So it's definitely on the rise. Statistics say 2024, it'll probably be a multi-billion-dollar industry. And that's just 2024 is right around the corner.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So I guess as we're wrapping up here, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you love the most about being in this industry? Is it the power that you feel like you have when you're holding a hammer? Is it how you can bring other women in and like pull out the gifts that they have? Or tell us a little bit about that.
Really and truly, I think the benefit to doing what I do and what I like the most about it is, anytime that you have the ability to take nothing or something that someone's tired of and breathe life into it, make them super excited about it or give it a new flair, it's invigorating, and you get the sense of worthiness. At least I do. I've gone into kitchens and bathrooms where people can't see beyond the walls, and they can't see the vision, and you have to tell them to trust you. But when they do trust you and the finished product kind of hits them in the face and they absolutely like it, they love it, it gives you all the energy to go on to the next project. So what I love about the industry is just the ability to breathe new life into my projects and to the families and the people that I'm servicing as well.
That's wonderful. So Jill, if you want to close up, or lady, why don't you tell us, what do you have coming up? What's coming up on your calendar? Any trade shows, any speaking events? What's next for you?
Well, when we talk about empowering women, I'm super excited to have the opportunity to keynote a graduation ceremony up and coming. It's the Pace Center for Girls in Palm Beach County, but these schools are all over the South Florida, well, no, all over the Florida, Georgia region. They're schools designed to empower women, young girls, and ensure that they become their whole selves. So
Awesome.
while it's not entirely construction related, I think it's super, super exciting to be able to, again, breathe some life into them and what's going to come up in their futures. We have the USHBA, which is an organization that I am very honored to say I was one of the founding members of, the U.S. Hemp Building Association, that has several trade shows and conferences coming up in the next few months. It's a great segue into introducing industrial hemp to the rest of the world. And then, you know, I'm a realtor by trade as well. We've got some trade shows, some great things happening in that industry, as well as people just go real estate crazy. So I figure I'll be relatively busy for the next 6 months, 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, you will. I mean, real estate everywhere is going crazy, but especially in Florida.
I've sold more things sight unseen than I can't even put it into words. I've never seen anything like it. People are literally buying off of the internet, anywhere, everywhere, sight unseen, over market price.
Yeah.
You know, I keep wondering when it's going to happen, or if there's going to be this burst, but I think there will be, but I think Florida will be unaffected or impacted minimally, because people are just realizing Florida, it's like living in paradise. I'm looking out of my window now and it's beautiful. Palm trees, blue skies. I mean, everybody wants to be in Florida. Our economy is booming. The opportunities are endless, and I don't care who you are, what you look like. The opportunities just don't seem to end. You could string them up end to end and figure your way. So I'm happy to be on this end, and busy we are, and I'm grateful to the universe for that.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like Florida and Michigan today.
Really?
I'm telling you, you would not have wanted to be in Michigan about 10 days ago when it was like 40 degrees, and now today it's like,
you guys have, I don't even know how you know, they shut the schools down here in Florida when we're at 40 degrees. We don't even, the kids, we don't, literally, they send out a notice. You don't go to school in 40-degree weather in South Florida. So how you function and go to the grocery store, and we would just, it'd be over.
Oh my goodness.
We're sunlight spoiled over here.
Yes, you are. There's no doubt about it. Well, lady, it's truly been an honor to spend some time with you today.
Thank you.
If anybody has any questions for you, what's the best way for people to reach you?
The best way is, I'm getting better at this. Instagram, I guess. I am Lady 4. That works. And, you know, good old fashioned email. It's my name, Lady Goldwire at gmail.com. It's Lady A Goldwire, my middle initial, at gmail.com. And that's the best way to reach me. I'm always online, kind of looking for emails. That seems to be where everything drops at right now. And so.
Well, sounds fabulous. And also, if anybody has any questions for us, you can reach us at WCOnline.com or roofingcontractor.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for our free e-newsletters, our free e-magazines, register for our website. It's all for free to make sure you stay up on all the great content and videos and interviews that we're doing with fabulous women like Lady. And please stay safe and healthy. We look forward to seeing you next time.